Monday Night Skippys heads itself over to Monza here on RaceSpot TV for round number 11 of the championship. Our coverage will start in just one moment's time. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Monday Night Skippys here on RaceSpot TV for round number 11 of the championship. Today, we head ourselves to Italy, just outside of Milan, to one of those historic racetracks in all of racing. It's Monza, the track that has been a mainstay of the Formula 1 calendar right since its inception. It's had a couple of different variations over the time. Once upon a time, we used to run on the ovals. You have a look by our aerial coverage, brought to you by And1 Design, and there you can see that now on your screen. At one point, we ran this track without chicanes. They've added those in for safety. Most recently, repaved and re-laid out in 2000 into the track that we are running here today. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Will Vincent along with Rachel White for the qualifying is underway here at Monza. Drivers have themselves a total of 2 laps to go as fast as they absolutely possibly can. Matthew Daniels on pole position there. You can see Fahim Martinez is in P2. He just completed his runs, and Rachel, well, there's a couple of people left to finish off their runs. Graham Carroll is one of those drivers heading himself out the final corner down towards start-finish line.
Good evening, Willie. Is indeed Graham Carroll, and a good run here. We're going to see exactly what you can get from this one. Of course, so far in qualifying, he has set 2 times. Not the best right now, but, well, he crosses the line, and I believe that's going to put him up to 3rd position at this time. So, brilliant run there from Carroll with a 5.68. A whole 10th off Matthew Daniels on pole, though. This could be an interesting race.
He is. He's just about a 10.25 behind Matthew Daniels. He's exactly 1/10 of a second behind Fahim Martinez, though he is just 4 1,000ths of a second ahead even of Rafael Draskas. We currently ride on board with David Grunhill in the 02 car, working himself through the Variante Ascari, the 3rd of 3 chicanes here at Monza. Down towards the Parabolica he comes, and this really is a difficult corner. You're at 185, coming up to 190 kilometers an hour into the apex of the corner. Then you've got to slow it all the way down. We go back along board. You notice almost hitting 200, then slowing it all the way down to 120 kilometers an hour through the apex of the corner, then beginning to build up the pace on corner exit. Well, most drivers have qualified. Grunhill has still to complete his run, as well as Jason McCurry. Also, Ellie Stevens and Blake Townend are circulating on the racetrack. So welcome back to the series then for Blake Townend, as across the start finish line, David Grunhill, he has not completed a lap. Now he has completed a lap, and he will be in P number 16 overall. Does not improve his time there in qualifying. Jason McCurry working himself now, Rachel, also for the Variante Ascari.
Yeah, Ascari is probably my favourite corner on this track, Will. It has an amazing natural flow to it, and of course, it's one of the corners that did actually exist in in the earlier layouts of this circuit, and it's one of the greatest corners in motorsport. We have things like, of course, the Eau Rouge Radion Complex, Spa-Francorchamps. We have the S's at Suzuka, and Ascari is just an incredible corner to drive here at Monza. You did mention how hard Parabolica can be. Well, it used to be, until they paved it over the outside, and Herman Tilke has been deeply satisfied by that move.
Yeah, but McCurry is going to head himself past the start-finish line. Let's see what he can do then as he moves himself currently no higher than P number 25. He remains in that 25th position. You've got yourself, you did a moment ago have someone moving up the timing scores. It was Richard Avery, all the way to pole position there, 2 minute 13.435, right in the dying moment of qualifying. Richard Avery steals pole position here as Ellis Stevens is working himself on a lap out of Curva de Lesmo. This is turn number 6. He's worked himself through down into the second Lesmo, turn number 7. Out of that he comes, and now it's that long run down. Anyone who watched, of course, Grand Prix coverage a couple of years ago, remember the famous Schumacher defense being played on down there, but the checkered flag is out. It's time for us to head ourselves down to the starting grid for today's event here on RaceSpot TV, and it will be on pole position Richard Avery in the dying moment of qualifying, taking himself the spoils as far as qualification goes. 2 minute 13.435. Matthew Daniels just 9/1000ths of a second further back there. Nice strong front row of the grid for Martinez, one of his best qualifyings in a while in P number 3. Graham Carroll lining up alongside of him in that second row of the grid. P number 5, Rafael Draskas. P6 will be David Williams with Roderick Savidovic and Adrian Bidwell rounding out your top 4 rows to the grid, and then rounding out your top 10 where you got Clark Williams and Stuart Adcock. We head on back. You can see Mark Mercer and Mark Turner there. Row number 6, row 7, another Mark O'Connell, then Mike Cannon on the outside of row number 7. Patrick Freebanks and David Grunhill in row 8, row 9, Simon Maltby and Robert Plumley with Tim Adcock and Paul Thurston running out your top 20. And there you can see finally the rest of the drivers coming up on your screen. It's a total here today of 27 drivers attempting a qualification lap. We've got one driver who hasn't qualified. He will be looking to start from the rear of the field if he does race. That is Blake Townend, and you can see him there in that number, that Radicals Online car. Welcome back to him as he's just taking his place on the starting grid. But out front, it was down in the final moments of qualifying. There you can see Richard Avery getting ready. In just a couple of moments' time, we will let these engines rip here at one of the most historic racetracks in all of racing. It is Monza, and it forms round number 11 of this, the Club UK and Ireland Skip Barber Racing School Championship here on RaceSpot TV. Robert Plumley now takes his place on the grid. That means we're all here. 15 laps about to get underway here at Monza, and this round number 11 of the championship will start right now. There's a good start there by your first couple of rows. They're coming down though into the Variante Rettifilo, turn number 1. It's a top chicane installed in 2000. These drivers are going to have to slow all the way down to about 30 miles an hour. A little bit of chopping going on already. That's a double O car going to go 3 wide all the way around the outside there, moving himself up 2 positions. Great start by Friction Racing, Rachel, up into P1 and P2.
It is indeed great run there from Carroll and from Avery. Brilliant run to those first couple of corners, and take note, World Championship drivers, that's how you take turn 1 here at Monza.
Well, there you can see just ahead right now. You've got yourself Graham Cowell losing P2 for the time being. Just ahead of him is Matthew Daniels, who of course started this race round this position. He's currently running himself inside of the top 5 as these drivers now come down into the Variante della Roggia, the second of the 3 chicanes here. We had 2 cars now turn around. That's at the second chicane. That is a number 24 machine of Rich Jones. Also Mike Cannon involved. That is down into the chicane number 2, as you say, 3 chicanes. We've got another car off. That is Fahim Atinides all the way off there, Rachel. That is on the run through the first Lesmo down to Lesmo number 2.
It is indeed not a good place to end up off the track there. I believe that could have been Robert Plumley involved in that initial incident at the second chicane wheel.
Yep, so let's have a look then. We'll get ourselves a replay once lap number 1 is scored complete. But out front, it is still the driver of Richard Avery leading the way. Now, we talk about draft tracks. This really is one of the biggest, if not the biggest draft track we will ever go to. And we saw yesterday on Sunday Night Skippies in the Skip Barber 2K World Cup that this race will come down to the final corner of the final lap, and hey, yeah, you can go 3 wide. You can see drivers already thinking about going 3 wide in the middle part of your pack, and look at all these drivers then swarming, weaving, trying to find a line as they come down into the Parabolica for the first time in this race. A little bit of 3 wide action already going on between Mark Turner, Patrick Frybanks and Fahim Atinides. Down into that Parabolica they come, just ahead of them on the exit of the corner. Let's go 3 wide potentially for the battle for the race lead. Let's ride on board with Graham Carroll as he's going to go to the inside. You've got Friction Racing on the inside, Friction Racing in the middle, Matthew Daniels on the outside, and the winner down towards turn 1. What it looks as though, Rachel, that will just about be Graham Carroll unless Daniels can hold it on the outside line, and he can't.
I don't think he will. It's tough to hold it there, but of course those 2 friction cars with inside lines will have the priority. Daniel's a very fast car early on, Will. Expecting a lot from him today. He's had awesome pace so far in practice. It'll be really interesting to see exactly what he can pull. Avery was much slower than him in practice, as was Carroll, so Daniel's looking like the one to beat at the moment.
Yeah, that's right. Back on board then with Matthew Daniels. This is through the Curva Grande down in towards the second chicane. They come once again. Daniels certainly stay in line for the time being, but just behind you've got a lot of drivers all scrapping it out for position there. You can see David Williams in the Kalanda Sim Sports number 19 car, like himself now through the Variante della Roggia down towards Lesmo number 1 once again. And well, overall, Rachel, it has been a clean start. We had ourselves just 1 driver classified as out of the race. That is Rich Jones, and we had a couple of drivers involved in incidents, but not too many. Overall, a good clean start to tonight's event.
He has indeed, although poor start there for Fahim Atinides, who dropped right through the field early on. Qualified 3rd, let's not forget, and he fell all the way down to a low point of 18th. He's up to 15th right now, but a lot of ground to recover. Although one man is doing just that well, Blake Townend. He started 28th and last. He's already P20.
Yeah, there we are, getting ourselves then a replay of the incident down in the second chicane. 2 drivers, the number 20 and the number 109. Then you get the number 24 car turn around as well. So 2 drivers then, and then we'll flick it back to Fahim Atinides on the exit of that corner. You notice he's riding with the number 19 car. He gets turned around there down at the first of the Lesmo. I believe that was David Williams, the Kalanda Sim Sports car he was involved with. That is the reason why Atinides fell down so much, and that is the reason why we also saw Plumley looking a little bit nondescript there at the start of this race. He didn't actually get too much contact. It was the car behind him, the number 109 car of Patrick Fairbanks, who was really involved in the incident. But most of these drivers are still battling it out as they now work themselves onto the 3rd lap of 15 here as they go 2 wide in the battle for the race lead. Once again, you've got 2 Friction Racing cars, and they are going 4 wide down into turn number 1.
Yeah, Mercer and Williams just locked wheels as Mercer tried to squeeze Williams off the track there to the left-hand side. 4 wide, my God. That was an interesting braking moment. They thankfully realised it's turn 1 and backed out of that one, but that could have been very, very bad, Will.
Stuart Adcock there running himself in P number 9. The drivers involved in this little battle right now. You've got Mark Mercer, David Williams, Adrian Bidwell, Stuart Adcock behind. You've got drivers going 2 apiece there. You've got crab walking car, that's a number 16 machine. It's Simon Maltby. But already Blake Townend in this event, we talk about the fact he started from the rear of this field. He is already moving on up. He's up 11 positions there in 2.5 tours of this racetrack.
Big hit. David Williams there with, I believe that's Stuart Adcock. Turned around and off at the second chicane. Another car taken out as well. I believe that's Adrian Bidwell. Hit by the car there of try and work it. That is Robert Plumley. So another big incident at the second chicane wheel.
Well, that's our second one of the day. So we've had ourselves a couple of drivers involved, and that will start by looking at this one from Adcock's perspective. We'll get the and one design super slow-mo replay up on your screen as they come down into that second chicane. Right about now, you can see David Williams in the number 19 car in the Sim Sports car, and then Stuart Adcock in the number 52 car. They work themselves side by side into that second chicane, and well, just clipping the curb there did Adcock. He just got himself turned loose around, and because of that, number 15 car of Adrian Bidwell had nowhere to go, cars swarming around him. Second big moment at the chicane. The reason for that partially is, Rachel, is because there are some high chicanes down at that second chicane, and you've got those what I like to call sleeping policemen, as they are going too wide in your battle for the race lead. We are down to a 2-horse race as well at the moment, but you've got those sleeping policeman curbs that if you touch those, it will spin your car out because of just how small and light these cars are.
Absolutely. The big yellow and black curbs for the viewers, of course, they are massive. They will bounce this car into the air. The red ones on the actual apex is very, very tall as well. Big problem for some of these small cars. Although I do think perhaps that Stuart Adcock might have bitten off more than he could chew trying to go too wide with that angle. Possibly.
Well, there you can see Avery back to the point then, down in towards turn 1 behind Daniel Savidovic going too wide down in towards turn 1. It'll be Savidovic now up into the third position behind. They once again think and they flirt with 2 wide, they flirt with 3 wide, but David Grunhill there in that number 02 car, losing position there to Mark O'Connell through that first of 3 chicanes here. That's on the exit of the Variante de Rettifilio. Now through Curva Grande once again. Mark O'Connell so far in this race is up 4 positions from where he started. Your biggest movers in the race so far inside your top 10. Mercer's up 5 positions. Grunhill's up 8 positions, Rachel.
Yeah, but Blake Townhend's into P11 right now from 28th, so he just stole their thunder.
There you can see Blake Townend in that Radicals Online number 57 car as he's moved up 17 positions in this event. Townend, of course, a former RaceSpot.com World Championship Grand Prix Series driver, also ran in the Grand Am Premier Series and the Skip Barber Premier Series back in 2011. Out front, here is your tete-a-tete battle between the Friction Racing drivers. And Rachel, they're being smart here. What they're doing is they are drafting together to pull out an advantage over Daniels and Savidovic behind. Last time by, they were much faster, a 10 faster at least compared to Savidovic, and a second faster than Matthew Daniels behind.
That's the advantage of having a teammate with you, of course. Well, it means that they know and are probably communicating, at least have a shared strategy here of not fighting too hard. Once they've got a big gap, dying laps, then maybe they'll fight it out, but as things stand, there's nothing gained or lost in running together and getting away from Daniels, who is, let's be honest, a big threat to those guys. However, Daniels is now up together with Savidovic, so if Savidovic can keep it together and not fight too hard, they might actually be able to get back up there. It's only 2 seconds at the moment.
We just saw Jason McCarthy having a big moment there down at the Variante Ascari. The number 69, get his car, getting himself all forms of loose, and he's lost himself a couple of positions as a consequence of that one. So he now is down in towards P number 18, is behind them. They're going side by side. That is Mike Cannon there in the number 20 car, looking down to the inside on the number 236 car of Martin Brandon down into the final chicane. So the final corner, that is the Parabolica, and it looks as though Cannon will indeed complete that pass for the time being, but they will remain side by side as they work themselves out the Parabolica and down towards turn number 1. So good scraps going on up and down your field here, but the closest one that we've got going on is really a 3-horse race going on now, Rachel. P number 3, 4 and 5 as we've got ourselves Daniels batting out Savidovic and Draskas. Daniels, from attacking at the beginning, now is playing defense.
He is indeed, and Daniels, he is currently sitting at the front of this one. He did pass Savidovic on that last run, last lap I mean. He had about similar pace, but if they can not fight too hard, they have got leaders in sight, so they can bring this one back up to the front. But as we know, Carl Avery, they're not fighting too hard. We know Savidovic is a scrapper. He will go for the pass if I think he has the chance, so that could hurt them somewhat here, but things are running pretty well at the moment.
David Williams, we saw him involved in an incident earlier on at number 19 Commander Sim Sports car. You can tell a little bit of damage on the left-hand side of his car, and he is already 9 seconds behind your race leader, battling it out with David Grunhill in that battle for P number 8 for the time being. as we've got Savidovic, Daniels going side by side, almost there, down in towards the Ascari chicane. It looks as though that Savidovic will stay in line for the time being, and Savidovic now just going to use a lot of that curb, trying to get himself set up on the run out of the Ascari chicane, down towards the Parabolica they come. We're right along board then with Savidovic in that number 80 machine. Daniels, the number 41 car, just ahead of him, going to complete 1/3 distance this time by down in towards the Parabolica they come. And Rachel, it looks as though that the status quo will remain for the time being.
Well, it will do for now, and these drivers realising, of course, some of the best at their game, they've got to be patient. They've got to work together if they want to have a chance at this win. You've got to get back up there, and of course, these guys are very used to running these draft tracks. Of course, we saw this at Road America. When it's time to play ball, Davidovic will play the long game. He will stay in the draft and help them get up to the front, of course. The slingshot we've seen can actually be faster here, so as we see him now looking at the outside, he will clear Daniels, so there is something to be said about that. They can close up that gap to the cars in front of them.
Yeah, as you can see, it is now going to be Savidovic from Daniels from Draskas. Draskas down in P number 5, and Graham Carroll has worked himself now past Richard Avery, so the double O car is leading from Richard Avery, but Rachel, last time by, the lap times were about static. 1.9 seconds is the advantage from Avery to Savidovic.
We've got Luke Ridgway on the outside there of, I believe that's the car of Paul Thurston. Can he hold it around the outside? He won't. No, he falls back at turn 1. That was looking like a great scrap, but missing a front wing there on Thurston's car and the nose cone, I should say. Ridgway missing the front wing but has an intact nose cone, being hunted by Jason McCurry behind them with a perfect car, so this could get exciting.
And we've also got Mike Cannon off the racetrack down at the start-finish line, getting ourselves a replay of that one for you as he heads himself then down towards turn 1. Is it an engine failure? Does he just pull off? I believe he does just pull off on the side of the racetrack. So Mike Cannon is out of this event. But to go back to the point I was making, as Atinides is also now out of the race, Rachel. Carroll and Avery, they're not pulling away much anymore. The gap between Avery and Savidovic is now hovering around 2 seconds.
It is indeed, of course, that drafting pass that Savidovic made on Daniels. Of course, it closes up the gap between the cars because you use that slingshot. The car in front of you keeps the same constant distance to the next cars up the track. But if you draft past, you close it up, and if they go past, you leapfrog towards the leaders. So with all these guys relatively on a similar pace as we know, they will reel them in before the end of this race, I think.
Well, you've got yourself down in the pack. More gaps appearing right now. Blake Townham versus Patrick Fairbanks. That one remains. But as far as your battle out front goes, we're just having a look, and we'll turn our attentions back to that battle for the race lead. Your top 2 drivers separated by 1/4 of a second. They head themselves past the start-finish line once again. But Daniels, Savidovic, they're going to scrap it out as they work themselves down toward the start-finish line one more time. And of course, last weekend, it's always been about close finishes. We might well see a close one here again, because we've now got Savidovic battling it out with Matthew Daniels in towards turn 1. Last time by 2:13.7 for Avery, 2:13.8 for Carroll, 2:13.4 for Daniels, and a 2:13.2 for Savidovic. P number 3 and 4 are a coming, Rachel.
They are indeed, and as we saw there from both Carroll and, from Avery, I should say, and from Savidovic, both drivers held it to the left-hand side of the track well. That gave the cars passing the inside line of the corner. They didn't fight it. Both passes were completed before the corner, so we are starting to see that slingshotting being used by these 2 packs.
As Daniels works himself in that 3rd position for the time being. He doesn't relinquish any position down into that 2nd chicane, the Variante della Roggia. Now they head themselves down in towards Lesmo number 1. There you can see your top 2 drivers. There you can see number P2, 3 and 4. Then just behind, you've got Mark Mercer in P6, David Grunhill in 7th. Clark Williams runs in 8th place right now, with David Williams in 9th, and then Mark O'Connor rounding out your top 10. As we've just shown there, your top 12 drivers heading themselves past the exit of the 2nd chicane down towards Lesmo's. Lesmo really is, Rachel, one of the toughest corners, because it's the only time you really need to have aerodynamic grip compared to the mechanical grip you pretty much have elsewhere on the racetrack.
Absolutely, and De Lesmos and Parabolica, of course, all really tough because you have to keep that angle in there. You've got to have the combination of the mechanical and the aero grip on the Skip Barber car. Try and keep it in line in those corners. The grip is so on edge. If you were to stand on the apex of the corner and tap one of those cars with your finger as they came past at the apex point, they'd probably spin out. It's every component of the car is working in those corners. They are really tough.
As there we can see then Luke Ridgway running himself in P number 17 right now. One of your bigger movers in the field here today as he comes down in towards the Ascari chicane. But out front, out the final corner, Avery will lead this lap from Graham Carroll. So far, Avery's led 1 lap. Carroll has led 5. Let's have a look at the lap times. So they work themselves past the stripe once again then, because this could well be important. Graham Carroll will get the move past just after even the start-finish line. It's 2:13.1, 2:12.8 that time by for Avery. Those friction racing drivers picking it up there. What a response they've just done to Daniel Savidovic and Draskas, who, despite attempting to work together, Rachel, just don't seem to have the pure speed of those friction racing cars.
No, they don't, and the friction guy's really hot on it today. Carroll, we know, is a multiple race winner in this series. Avery, when he puts it together, could also be a race winner. But of course, none of these guys really in the points fight at the moment. Avery and Carroll haven't run the full schedule. No Sebastian Job today. And the only man that really stands, well, the people that stand to gain here, I should say, are Savidovic and Daniels. So, the finishing position between those two expect to be hotly contested towards the end of this race.
We're right on board then with Rafael Draskas as he works himself out of the second chicane, and just ahead of him are those 2 championship protagonists we're talking about, Roderick Savidovic and Matthew Daniels, running in P number 4 and P number 3 respectively into the second half of this race now here at Monza. And we have ourselves Paul Thurston currently scored on pit road. We get a look then from our aerial coverage. You can see no front wing on that car. Now there's a front wing. He'll be back out and away. And that pit stop time took him 23.9 seconds. We've got a couple of drivers also a little bit further off pace than we'd wanted to have been here today. We talked about Mark Turner earlier on in today's event. Well, he is currently scored well behind the race leader. 1 minute 40 seconds behind your race leader as it stands. So he's about to get lapped actually in about the next 2 to 3 laps potentially as your drivers. Well, there we can see Avery, and he's still battling it out with Graham Carroll for position. The gap between Avery and Daniels is about 2.1 seconds. This time by, it does look as though that Daniel Savidovic and Draskas have started to work even closer together. But Avery, I think, is really secretly setting up his own teammate here, Rachel, trying to figure out the perfect point to try and slingshot past his teammate either before or after the start-finish line.
Certainly, Avery is definitely playing the long game here. He knows Carroll's going to want to go for that win as early as he can, and if he plays his drafting game and allows him past all the time, he won't expect it when it comes. And Avery, he can break that draft and he can make the block if he wants to when it comes to the time, but definitely going to be sitting in that position now to work out exactly how he can win this race.
Well, last time by, the gap between those 2 drivers, it was officially 29 1,000ths of a second, Rachel.
That is somewhat close. That's Indy 500 close.
It is indeed. As Savidovic, Daniels, Draskas continue to battle out behind. We're right along board then with Matthew Daniels, one of the championship protagonists, working himself through Curva Grande down towards the Variante della Roggia. And between these 2 drivers as well, Rachel, Daniels has been happy to sit in line for the time being. They've each led. It is a track here. The start-finish line is much further down the road compared to the finish line. So the start line, pretty much halfway down the front straightaway. The finish line is a lot further back. It's just after pit entry. That will make a difference to drivers trying to make that slingshot.
Certainly, and if you can make that pass into Parabolica, you can pretty much take this win, of course, because there isn't the length of run for a driver to come back at you and get that drafting pass completed into turn 1, because the straight doesn't exist for the finish line. So that'll be something that Avery will be paying attention to.
As we've got ourselves a couple of people now classified as out of today's race. Rich Jones, Stuart Adcock, Mike Cannon, and Fahim Atinides. All other drivers are currently classified on the lead lap. There's the one at the very rear of your field. It is the driver of Adrian Bidwell in the number 15 car. He had himself an issue earlier on in this event, when it won't be long before he gets himself lapped. There you can see Bidwell heading himself towards the start-finish line now. And there you can see your race leader. That is Graham Carroll. He will be heading himself any second now towards that start-finish line. He's actually just heading himself now down into the Parabolica as he's got himself Richard Avery still behind him. Avery to Daniels, that gap remains solid at 2 seconds, and it will be, I think, Rachel, almost too much for Daniel Savidovic and Draskas to find a way past. Despite how well they're working together, 3 cars today are not faster than 2.
No, they haven't made the inroads that they needed to make in the last 6 or 7 laps, so just not sure it's going to be possible for them to get up there. With how well Carroll and Avery are working together, I think it's still a two-horse race, Will.
We ride on board with the driver of David Williams. He's looking to the outside of the number 98 machine of Clark Williams down in towards the Variante del Retapillo, the first of 3 chicanes here. And well, one Williams passes the other as they work themselves through the first chicane. Now Williams sets himself his sights onto Mark Mercer, David Grunhill. This, Rachel, the battle for P6, 7, 8 and 9.
It is, and it's a good fight here right now. Mark Mercer attempted to go round the outside in Curva Grande, which will set him up for the inside line into that second chicane. Interesting and somewhat brave move there from Mercer, but he completes that pass as we head into the braking zone. That's expertly done.
As this is a 4-car pack going on right now. It's a 3-car pack ahead of him. So it's a 2-car pack, then a 3-car pack, then a 4-car pack. Unfortunately, there isn't a 5-car pack further back. Those drivers from about P10 backwards, they are all now really spread out. There you can see Mark O'Connell in 10th. Blake Townend in 11th. Then Patrick Fairbanks in the 12th position. He is being caught by both Keith Sharp and Robert Plumley. They run in P13 and 14 respectively. And then just behind them, you've got yourself really more big separated gaps. So, 2-horse battle out front, and Carroll and Avery have now got that gap up to 2.6 seconds. 5 laps to go at the line. At what point, Rachel, do you think it'll be enough for Carroll and Avery, and they'll start fighting against each other? Because we know you can lose at least a second a lap here, so they can't leave it too early, but they can't leave it too late.
I think it's going to be all the way to lap 14 before they fight each other because, yeah, like you say, they can give up far too much time by fighting, and we know that Daniel, Svidovic and Draskas will spot that. They will work seamlessly together, and they will be on top of them before they can blink. So right now, Carroll and Avery have to keep this team thing going and not second guess each other until the last possible moment, and literally the fight, I think, will come out of Ascari.
And of course, we know that Avery can be a little bit on the aggressive side. We know that Graham Carroll doesn't give an inch in this series. You're the team principal for Friction Racing. You say one thing to your drivers: do whatever you have to do, don't crash.
Yeah, bring both those cars home today and it'll be a good day for Friction Racing, but with one driver that doesn't move and one driver that likes to squeeze, rock and hard place.
As we can see Avery move himself back to the front of this field, but Mercer, Williams, that one still carries on. Then you've got yourself Grunhill and the other Williams. It's David Williams, Clark Williams, P7 and P9. David Grunhill in the middle of the Williams sandwich as it stands. As well, just behind actually, we talked about it all being well and said and done. Robert Plumley still battling it out with Keith Sharp, and this is the battle, Rachel, for P number 13 and P14.
It is, and reasonable exit there for Robert Plumley from the first chicane. Hasn't been able to make that move on Keith Sharp. He's been behind him for quite a while now. Of course, Plumley has some minor damage on that machine from the lap 1 incident at the second corner, so, well, he has no front wing, so that's definitely damage. But Robert Plumley suffering a little bit compared to that somewhat intact car up ahead of Keith Sharp, but good pace from him today, of course. P14 with a damaged car is pretty impressive.
It is indeed. As well, that's the biggest fight we've really got on outside of your top 10. As we said a moment ago, behind that, everyone is pretty much single file as it goes for the time being. This is what we like to call here on RaceSpot TV the calm before the storm. There's 3, maybe 4 battles that still need to get themselves sorted out. The issue is, if Daniel Svidovic and Draskas give up too early, then they will end up having Mercer, Williams, Grunhill and Williams catch up to them. If Avery and Carroll start fighting too early, they will end up having Daniel Svidovic and Draskas catch them. So if you are this second pack, Rachel, you have got to wait until the last moment, until you probably get to lap 14, 15 as well, because you want to pick up the pieces and go for the win if you want to. But as you alluded to, about 5 laps to go, your 2 championship protagonists are running right now in P number 3 and P number 4.
They are, and I just watched Avery and Carroll approaching Parabolica, and it was going to be a drafting pass there for Avery on Carroll. He couldn't quite make it, so he backed off and slotted back in line. One mistake, one too wide through a corner here for these two. It should lose them half a second or more. So these guys have to be so careful when they actually pull those passes.
Well, Graham Carroll now heads back to the point. He's led 8 laps here today at the line. 3 laps have been led by Richard Avery. It doesn't really count though, especially at this racetrack. It's too wide behind. David Williams down to the inside. Actually, no, he's down to the outside there. That number 33 car of Mark Mercer, not able to do the cut over. We can say one thing, Rach. At least it's clean in that Formula 3 race the other day.
I think that Rookie Street Stocks is cleaner than the Formula 3 race the other day. Several races here at Monza in Formula 3, of course, and, well, we had rollovers, we had flips, we had barrel rolls, we had cars. In the gravel traps, it was a little bit farcical. In fact, the third race was cancelled because of driving standards, so not a problem we have here in the UK Night Skip Barber Racing School Series, thankfully.
As that battle continues for P number 3, 4, and 5.
Oh, Mercer off!
There you can see him. There you can see Mark Mercer in the number 33 Club 100 car. Down now into P number 9. Replay coming up on your screens as we've got Mark O'Connell also having a spin. We'll show you that one in just one moment's time. It's like London bus moment all over again here. There we can see Mark Mercer right on board in that Club 100 car. Does he make contact there with David Williams in the number 19 car? I think that might be. Well, Mark Mercer down into the second chicane. What happens to him? Oh, he just catches that sawtooth curb there, Rachel. Sleeping from Neeson. Catch out once again. And then Mark O'Connell behind does pretty much the same thing. He just doesn't clip the curbs.
Oh, wow. Mercer's just hit the back there of Dave Grinnell heading into Ascari. He's been trying too hard to make up places, and he's just bumped right into him. No, yeah, Avery just carried, Mercer, I apologise, carried too much speed. He got on the first curb, which put him sideways for the second one. Well, the only option there was straight off. And desperation has just made him cause another mistake. So, a poor night and some bad moments late in this one for Mark Mercer.
Yeah, we're just going to have a look then, see if we can show you the second incident. This is the one down into Ascari. Look how close it was there, Mark Mercer. Lucky not to turn Grunhill off into the gravel there at the Ascari chicane. We are, though, getting closer. A three-wide situation down in towards turn number 1. 1, 2, 3. There they are. You'll see a lot of that there in the final 3 laps of this race. But it's a 0-2 car first. David Grunhill, then David Williams, then Clark Williams. It's like one of those games, Rachel, where you take one name, replace it with another. That is how you get those drivers from P number 5 through P number 7.
It is indeed, and it certainly makes it more difficult for us in the booth. There's Williams, David, and David. And Williams... I'm confused now. Fight it out for position through the first corner there. We nearly had contact between Grunhill and David Williams. In that first chicane, just getting a little angsty here as we head into the final 2 laps, 3 laps of this race. Well, they are not giving up yet.
Well, we can tell you who hasn't also given up. The drivers ahead of him, Matthew Daniels, Roderick Swedish, Red Rail, Draskaz. They've been battling all race long. They've not been able to do anything, but they continue to try and push in case Avery and Carroll decide to go tete-a-tete with each other before the end of this event. We've got Patrick Fairbanks with some issues. He's classified as out of the race, but let's go back and have a look. Roderick Swedish then through Lesmo number 2, that run down toward the Ascari chicane. 2 laps to go at the line, Rachel. 2.9 seconds is almost insurmountable at this racetrack. At some point, I think Savidovic will surprise Daniels before you see Avery trying to surprise Carroll.
Yeah, I think Savidovic will make a move into Parabolica fairly early on, this lap or next lap maybe, but he hasn't had to run this time around, so it'll be difficult to get that good exit here from Ascari. But looking like he's pushing hard now, Savidovic definitely on a charge. He will pounce on Daniels, and then it'll be all of a runaway to the front for Avery and Carroll.
Well, there you can see your top 2 drivers. 2 laps to go at the line. This track, this race is about to get interesting here on RaceSpot TV as out of the final corner, Richard Avery's going to work himself then. They are going to get the 2-lap warning here. He looks down to the inside of his teammate. That will be P1 there for Richard Avery, past the start-finish line, but behind them, they're not quite going at it just yet. We'll turn our attention to those as they head themselves past the start-finish line. You can see they are all single file. In fact, actually, Rachel, Draskaz has just fallen out of the mix for that one for the time being.
He has. He's about a second back from Savidovic and Daniels. He expects fireworks here, I think. But behind them, we're getting action from Grunhill, David Williams, and Clark Williams. As Clark Williams will go to the front of that trio.
Yeah, as it is going to be David Williams in P number 7. He has got Clark Williams just ahead of him. David Grunhill just behind, as we're having a look now on board with Grunhill in that number 02 car. Spin that camera around, we can show you the view he has to work themselves through Curva Grande for the penultimate time. We can see just ahead, David Williams versus Clark Williams down into the Variante della Roggia. There will be 2 wide coming down into that corner, and the winner in that battle, well, it might be none of them. We've seen a couple of drivers having to this down into the second chicane. Will they make it? The answer there is yes, and very good clean driving by both those drivers, although Clark Williams is going to lose that position to David Grunhill as a consequence, Rachel. Just being a little bit too cautious, pushing a little bit too far wide.
He will indeed, and that's let David Williams make a bit of a break in the front, although he just very wide there on the exit at the first Lesmos. and nearly loses that car, but holds onto it nicely as he, well, no, pushing it just about as far as you'd want to go on a second Las Mas, as he will secure that little advantage at the front there, and hoping that Clark Williams and Dave Grinnell will fight now.
Well, down the Curva de Seraglio then for the penultimate time into Variante Ascari. Turn number 8, 9 and 10 on this racetrack. Carroll versus Avery. Well, they've got 3.3 second advantage to everyone else. I wouldn't be surprised to see these two drivers go side by side the whole lap from here. On board with Graham Carroll to the outside, down into the Parabolica to take the white flag. This time by Graham Carroll has to fall back into line once again. But let's get the speed chart up on your screen. Graham Carroll already with a slight advantage as they work themselves out the final corner towards start finish line. The finish line is here, and he's nowhere near close enough. He needs to be far, far earlier, Rachel.
That was a test move, I think, there from Graham Carroll. If I'm Richard Avery, I want to stay behind him, not go past here like he's letting him. But we saw Carroll running down to the inside there. He was testing if he could make that move, entering Parabolica, and hold the lead across the line. He did that. Avery falls back in line, as you can see here. He will be in second place as we run through this lap. Expect him to be there right until Parabolica.
Well, here we can see Carroll in P number 2, just behind Daniels versus Svidovic. That one will go down to the wire as well. Draskas has caught back up to those drivers. And a little bit further back, Williams Clark going on a little bit wide there. That's going to allow David Williams a chance to try and close back up on that run through Curva Grande for the final time in this event. Running along board with the driver of David Williams over Clark Williams then. Anderson Sports in that number 19 car going around the number 98. And at the inside line down into that second chicane. That is the corner. Well, of course, Williams lost position to Grunhill. One lap ago, they come down into that second chicane for the final time. Round the outside this time by. They're able to touch a little bit there, but Williams, Clark will go off. That will allow Grunhill to indeed go past once again. And that battle looking as though it's pretty much over. Mark Mercer will actually get past Clark Williams as well. Williams going off into the first let's moment in a big way. We'll talk about that one after the race. But out from Richard Avery versus Graham Carroll. This is where it's going to get tetchy. Two drivers almost side by side down into the Variante Ascari. And now Graham Carroll is behind Richard Avery once again, right on board of him through the Variante Ascari. Now down onto that back shot away for what will be the final time in this event. He's not quite close enough, but he needs to get himself a hurry on because he needs to get himself to the outside on the run through the Parabolic. And now you can see immediately he's going to pinch himself to the outside, trying to use the overspeed into the final corner. Graham Carroll has done all he can do in this race. Now he just needs to hope he can get himself that turning angle done perfectly out of the final corner. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get that photo finish camera up one more time. Towards the start finish line they come. The 00 car of Graham Carroll towards the start finish line will not be able to do it. Richard Avery is going to win this one.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is what 0.001 seconds looks like. 1/1000th of a second at the line. That's a finish.
Behind, we still got it going on with Matthew Daniels. We've also got Daniels in third, Grunhill fourth, Williams in fifth, Mercer in sixth position, Blake Townend at the end, moving himself up a position or two. There you can see Blake Townend. He'll be classified in P number 8 when all is said and done. But we've been talking about photo finish cameras since Friday night here on RaceSpot TV. Of course, we had it in the first and the second RaceSpot.com Indy 500 webcast. Then we had it on Sunday Night Skippies. We have had the closest one of the weekend here on Monday Night Skippies on RaceSpot TV. There you can see the number 57 car of Blake Townend just coming to a halt. He's your biggest mover in the field here today. A couple of drivers just working themselves past the start finish line. There is Luke Ridgway. He is actually out of fuel. He will coast it towards the start finish line. A couple of people have run out of fuel in this race. Interestingly enough, Ulrich Svidovic and Rafael Draskas. We'll talk about that one in just one moment's time, because first, ladies and gentlemen, here is a look at your final race results from this round number 11 of the championship. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is officially classified as a dead heat here on RaceSpot TV between Richard Avery and Graham Carroll. They were side by side at the line. Richard Avery scored the victory by the closest of margins, but he holds on to win here in the 11th round of the championship. Matthew Daniels in the third place, Roderick Svidovic in fourth, Rafael Draskas in P5. Then David Williams, David Grunhill, Mark Mercer, Blake Townend, and Clark Williams round out your top 10. Mark O'Connell in 11th, with Keith Sharp in 12th, Robert Plumley 13th, Tim Adcock, Jason McMurray, Alan Patterson, Luke Ridgway, Mark Turner, Simon Maltby, and Paul Thurston rounding out your top 20. And there, ladies and gentlemen, is a look at the remaining drivers in today's field. We're going to step aside for just one moment. We'll be back with our photo finish camera after these messages. You're watching RaceSpot TV.
We're so excited to be bringing the Nürburgring to everybody. It's by far the most requested track that we've ever had. I've been with iRacing since the beginning. I can't tell you how many people I've met at trade shows or racetracks and demos that we've done all across the United States and even in Europe. And it's always the most requested track that we've had. And it's always been kind of a sad answer, no, we don't have it. When are you bringing it? And we never really had a good answer. And obviously we announced this last year, and it's super exciting. I mean, it really is one of the premier tracks in the entire world.
The Nürburgring, to me as a race fan, is the holy grail of racetracks. Even from the gaming aspect, just getting that car around that track was a personal achievement by itself. It's kind of got this iconic status to it that makes it different than any other track in the world.
We actually have a lot of history with the Nürburgring, dating back about 20 years. We created a version of the track for Grand Prix Legends, which was a Formula One simulation for the PC. But this will be the first time that we've worked on the track with laser scan data, highly precise measurements, and of course the iRacing standards of quality. So we're really excited about this project, and we can't wait to release it. There are two main facilities at Nürburgring. There's the Grand Prix course, which is basically a modern F1 style racetrack. And then there's the Nordschleife itself, which has been around for decades. And of course, the combined course, where you can take the Grand Prix course, drive around it, and then there's a point where you branch off onto the Nordschleife and you continue there all the way around the Nordschleife and then back down to the Grand Prix course. And the end result is an extremely large, unique racetrack. We arrived with a really large crew. Actually, 4 of us made the trip, and we spent a week there photographing the track, taking video recordings of the racetrack, the surroundings, the scenery, the towns. And when it's all said and done, we returned home with a massive amount of data. If you took our largest project ever, this is probably 4 times that size. So it's going to take a lot of work, but it's really our plan and our intent not to cut any corners and really produce and create the best version of the Nürburgring possible that we can. The terrain and topography of the area that surrounds the Nürburgring is really important to the character and accuracy and feel of the track. We're really working on new ways and methods and types of data that we can use to build the best topography and best terrain model possible. And it will be something never before seen in iRacing or racing sims in general. We have a laser scan of the track, and that laser scan is incredibly dense. Essentially, there's so many points that you could take a quarter and lay it on the laser points, and the quarter wouldn't fall through. So we're taking that level of detail from the scan, and we're trying to translate that into what you see in the sim.
You won't find the level of detail that we bring to tracks anywhere else. You guys expect that from us, and we'll continue to do that. It's not just purely laser scanned. It really will have personality, and I think that that's what's going to make our track unique.
The NASCAR P 3 Series, powered by iRacing.com, moves itself into June and to Dover. in just 1 day's time. That'll be tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on PSR TV, Fan Choice TV, MRN, the Motor Racing Network, and on iRacing Live. The next journey of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series follows another May sweep by Gregor Hutu as the series heads itself over to circuit known as Montreal. Of course, it's the home of Gilles Villeneuve, and it is round number 8 of the championship set on the Ile Notre Dame. That will be this coming Saturday, and our coverage will start at 1:30 p.m. GMT here on RaceSpot TV and also on iRacing Live. Well, we'll welcome you back then to Monza. We'll get ourselves a word with Matthew Daniels in just 1 moment's time. But before we did that, we wanted to show you just how close this battle was out front. So here is a look then at your two protagonists, the two friction racing drivers. They head themselves through the parabolic, and you can see at this point it's actually the driver of Richard Avery who is ahead. But we'll slow the camera down right here. You can see just how close Graham Chow was able to get. Our aerial coverage today brought to you by And One Design. And well, it was incredibly close at the line, but Richard Avery was just about to hold on by the absolute closest of margins. And you'll notice there that start-finish line is about to come up, and Richard Avery, we talked about how that finish line is actually earlier than the start line by quite some distance here. Well, when you actually get to the point of it, that, ladies and gentlemen, is just how close it was at the line. Richard Avery winning by an absolute matter of centimetres. And Rachel, that is what we call a close one.
Yeah, that was an incredible finish, of course, and pretty much the slightest margin you can ever win a race by. 1/1000th of a second. That's incredible. What a finish.
We have got ourselves the opportunity, though, to have a quick chat then with Matthew Daniels. And, well, Matthew, you were fighting for the win, but, of course, you're also fighting it out alongside Roderick Savidovic all race long. Can actually see your car working himself through the final corner in what was also a very close finish at the line. But you were able to beat Roderick Savidovic to the line. Just how important was that one? Especially considering the fact that you didn't get the race win here.
Yeah, well, obviously I started out up front, and my original plan was to work with the friction racing drivers to try and pull away from Wodge behind, but then for some reason one of the curbs at Ascari caught me out. I lost ground. Suddenly I had the opposite plan. I had to try and work with Wodge to try and catch back up to the lead again, but unfortunately that wasn't happening. So in order to try and salvage it, I just had to try and battle in for third place, try and take him up the line. I decided to, coming into the final corner, I'd go wide, force him to take the inside and hope to get a better exit out. It worked, and I managed to just pip him up the line. So yeah, that should be close for the final race.
Well, we always get some drivers loving these draft tracks. We also get others absolutely hating it. What's your view of Monza? Because it really is become the actual king of the draft tracks.
Yeah, I'm not terribly fond of the draft tracks. In fact, when I found out that the 2K World Cup race yesterday was going to be run without chicanes, I decided not to race. That's how much I hate draft tracks. But I thought I'll enter this one, try to keep my fight for whatever position I can in the championship, and I think I did pretty well today. And with Sebastian Job not having a race today, it could be interesting. You never know what might happen in the final race. We'll see.
One round of the championship to go as we head ourselves over to Interlagos. It's a track which doesn't present itself as much to drafting. It is more technical, but that run out of Yunsao all the way down to the center S, that is where you got to be careful. Also, from turn number 3, the Cova de Sal, down to the Sega de Lego, turn number 4. There's some places you've got to play some real defense, but how do you approach a race like that with potentially so much on the line?
I think probably the best strategy is just to practice, try to nail the track as much as possible, so you're fully prepared for the race, and then go out there, don't make any mistakes, try to finish as high as you possibly can. I'll do my best.
Well, congratulations on getting yourself podium, and we hope to see you in 1 week's time at Barber? That's not Barber. It's at the Brazilian track, which is known as the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pace, of course, better known as Interlagos. And what a track, Rachel, to finish off our season.
Yep, certainly. It's an incredible track, especially for these cars, and always breeds amazing fighting.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is all we have time for here today on RaceSpot TV's coverage of Monday Night Skippies. Don't forget, if you missed anything from the 6th annual iRacing.com Indianapolis 500, you can catch that one on our YouTube page. Head over to RaceSpot TV. We've got ourselves the full race coverage as well as the crazy final 5 laps that you do not want to miss. We'll be back tomorrow night for Champions of the Futures World Touring Car Championship, and then we got Champions of the Futures V8 Supercar Series. That is new to RaceSpot TV, and that is on Thursday before our coverage of the iRacing.com World Championship Grand Prix Series from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, Quebec. That is this Saturday from 1:30 p.m. GMT. For myself, Will Vincent, Rachel Whiteford, we shall talk to you next time. Bye-bye.